All right, tough loss yesterday. Watching the tape, thought there was a lot of good things on tape. I'm continue to be encouraged by the direction of our team with our players, the belief that we have in our players, our schemes, and what we're doing. One of the things I like most about the direction of our team is, this is a game where you got to score points, and that really is a result of all three phases playing complementary football. Starts with the defense, giving us turnovers, good field position, special teams giving us good field position, and an offense taking advantage of that and scoring points. So that's a good sign when you look over the years. And I just feel like when you're on a team that can score points, you're headed in the right direction. So that's I want to start with a real positive thing that I think is an encouraging sign of our team. What's not encouraging is that, we've had 3 games against playoff teams that we've had double-digit leads and we haven't been able to close those games out. And, the responsibility for that starts with me as a head coach. I got to do a better job. And I'm not just the offensive play caller, I'm the head coach. So I got to do a better job of getting us ready. That when we get in those moments in the second half, whatever phase it is, offense, defense, special teams, we need to do a better job collectively of closing out games against these good teams. I know we have the players to do it. I know we have the coaches to do it. So we'll continue to work towards that end. Let me give a brief summary of the game after watching the tape a couple times in all 3 phases. Defensively, I thought there was a lot to be encouraged about going up against one of the top scoring offenses. We really held their receivers down. We had 5 3-and-outs, couple takeaways, couple sacks. It's hard to sack that guy, and we got him twice. Really good on 3rd down. I thought, defense had to defend 2 short fields, gave up a field goal and a touchdown. I'd say that's a solid performance. We'd like 2 field goals there and not a field goal and a touchdown, but to hold into a field goal, the one was good. Had those 2 drives where the DPIs were big factors in those 2 of those scoring drives. Like I said yesterday, guys, I think the officiating has been pretty good this year. Looking at those calls, I'm not complaining about it. I didn't downgrade our guys on those plays, but those were tough. Those were tough plays, tough calls. And we got to somehow find a way to move on to that and then make the stop. And then I really felt like there was really only 2 drives where they really just kind of out executed us. And then we got to find a way to stop them there at the end and make them kick a 46-yard field goal rather than scoring a touchdown. Special teams, we made 2 big plays. Continue to do that. Really encouraged with our special teams play. Obviously, we had the one turnover in special teams, very uncharacteristic of us. Our coverage was good. Offensively, had a very poor first quarter. As bad as it was, we still had opportunities on 3rd down to move the sticks in our first 4 third downs and had a couple miscues that we got to be better than that. But then obviously after a poor first quarter, really got it rolling. A pretty flawless second quarter, and really from the second quarter on, moved the ball. I felt at will. We had one poor possession where we were 3-and-out. We had a penalty and got behind the sticks. But other than that, I thought we moved the ball at will against a very good defense. But the turnovers at the end of the day is really what hurt us. I will just close out before I open it up, just to make a comment on the run pass stuff, since you guys asked me about it a lot yesterday, and kind of as professional courtesy. I would just say this, assuming everybody's okay with the first half, I understand that, when it was in the second quarter, when the run pass ratio is heavy pass and it works, it's okay. But when it doesn't work, it's not okay. So I understand that. So let me just talk about the second half. We come out, we go right down the field 2 times and feel good about what we're calling. There's 15 first and second down calls in the 3rd quarter, and 8 of those 15 plays are directed to Jonathan, 3 passes, and the rest were RPO runs. And then just really close out by saying, this is kind of a philosophical thing. and I realize not everybody will agree with this and not everybody will like it, but this is just kind of who we are and who we're going to continue to be. Because when you're a one-back offense and you have to find creative ways to handle all the run blitzes, because we have Jonathan Taylor in the offensive line, we have teams get very creative and run blitzes and in heavy boxes. So one of the ways to combat that is formationally to do things. Another way is RPOs. And then, so we're going to continue to not major in RPOs, but it's going to be a part of what we do. I'll just give you the numbers on those in the second half. We had 6 RPOs in the second half that were called runs to Jonathan that ends up getting thrown. And on those plays, we averaged 7 yards a play. We averaged 7 yards a play. So one thing that I think is important to note, that it's interesting about RPOs. They're throws, so you don't get, but you're calling the run. And if you average 7 yards a play on a run, you're going to be real happy with that. And I'm really happy with the productivity of our RPO game. It's been exceptional, and it was exceptional in this game as well. Incomplete plus 15, plus 11, plus 7, incomplete plus 7. That's almost 7 yards a play. So happy with that. That being said, it's like Chris and I were talking about, there's something about the attitude of calling downhill runs that have no other option. You just got to call it and run it. And so I understand that that's a big part of the game, and that's got to be a part of who we are. So we'll continue to mix that in there. There is a time and a place for that. Really felt like the way for us to win this game against this defense, we were going to have to throw it a little bit more than normal, and thought we did that effectively. Just got to limit the turnovers. So open it up from there.
All right, Zach Kiefer.
Frank, on that note, you talked about the run pass balance. I'm curious, when you watched the tape, did it feel like you guys were getting, and I realized you were moving the ball through the air. I saw it. Did you feel like you guys were getting away from your identity and what you want to do? And with a 10-point lead, did you have any regrets today watching that? But then I also understand that you had 3 touchdown drives in the second quarter, so it was working.
Yeah. No, and Chris and I had that conversation. Hey, is our mindset different with a 10-point lead? Going into the third quarter. Yeah, it is a little different. And I was planning on calling a few, and then they come out and they run blitz us on the very first play. We kick it out, and the ball gets tipped. And they had a couple heavy boxes that, I would just say to you that on a lot of those ones that we're kicking out and gaining 15, 11, 7 yards, if we hand those balls off, they're like, we were, what was the number? I think we were, it was 40. We had 6 RPOs for 40 yards. I bet if we had handed those off, we maybe get 15 yards on those plays. So, I didn't have, you guys know, a lot of times I look at it and I'll say, I didn't have very many regrets on the way this game was called. I'm not going to lie. We executed pretty well. We got to clean up a couple things. Do you want to call 1 or 2 more runs somewhere along the line? Yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah, sure. 1 or 2 more runs somewhere, but it wasn't because of the lack of execution, and it wasn't because we were getting stuffed. We knew we were going up against a #1 run defense who they came out with saying to themselves, Jonathan Taylor's not going to beat us. We're going to make these guys throw the ball to beat us. And that's the approach we had to take.
Mike Chappell.
2 questions. First, along that line, Frank, does it get a point in the game? I mean, let's say the first half where you just weren't going to be stubborn running the ball. I mean, there've been times, that's your identity, obviously, but you're not going to be stubborn to prove a point, I guess. I don't know. You averaged 3 yards a carry first half.
Yeah. And Chap, I know you got a second question, but what I said yesterday in the press conference, actually, if I had a regret, it was that I didn't throw it sooner. That I didn't go into that pass heavy. I thought about it. I said it to Marcus before the game. I said, I'm going to stay patient with the run game. I know we got the best running back in the NFL, the best O-line in the NFL, but I know Todd Bowles, when he's playing you to stop the run, it's hard to run it on him. And I know we're going up against one of the number one scoring offense. And I said to Marcus before the game, I'm going to stay patient with the run early, but this is a game where at some point, I bet we're just going to have to loosen them up a little bit. And so that's, if anything, I wish I'd gotten more aggressive a little bit earlier.
Off subject, is DeForest Buckner all right? I mean, it was hard to tell. It looked serious, but he came back in and played.
Pretty banged up, but I don't know if we're going to see him at the beginning of the week. We're hopefully see him at the end of the week, but we're going to have to take it day by day. There's no guarantee on him.
George Bremer.
Frank, all year long, you guys have been clean in the turnover game. What do you think the difference was on Sunday? Was it more what Tampa Bay was doing, or more, what you were not doing?
Just I can only say, and I think we have the evidence, that we have the track record to prove it. It was a fluke. I give Tampa credit. They got it out. They made the plays. So a credit to Tampa, but that absolutely cannot happen again. That's just, we've been so good on that the whole year. So I'm not gonna, we all felt it today when we talked as a team. We all know, every one of us, that we take responsibility, all those. It's a group thing. It's not just, however the turnover happened, it's a group thing. But we know that has to be an anomaly. We can't allow that to happen again.
Joel Erickson.
Frank, the interception on the 50-50 ball to Pittman, do you have any problem with that throw? You guys have been so successful on that throw to him this season.
No, I actually don't, Joel. Was it Carson's best throw? No, it wasn't his best throw. He could have got it out there a little bit further, but it was on an awkward angle for Pitt, and he just couldn't get his body in position to get around and make a play on it. And I got hats off to Winfield. That was an elite, those are the kind of plays that at worst, you want it to be an incompletion. When you throw that 50-50 ball to a guy like Pitt, you think it's a catch, it's DPI, or it's an incomplete pass. The last thing you're thinking is it's going to be an interception. And the guy made an elite play.
Kevin Bowen.
Frank, I know you pointed to yourself and the inability to finish off some of these games when you guys have had those leads. How much are you feel like you're maybe missing an impactful play from the pass rush, building double-digit leads, particularly Baltimore and yesterday in the second half, but just not capping those?
Well, we knew yesterday, Kevin, with this team, he's hard, he's the least sacked quarterback, in the NFL. So this is 2 weeks in a row where, totally different quarterbacks, but we've gone in telling our defensive line, listen, this game is not just about sacks. This game is about putting pressure on him. And so I thought the D-line did do that in many respects. Do you always want more pressure? Yes, you do. But the fact that we got to him twice, is a credit to them. We did put pressure on him at times. Brady made a couple nice plays. And then when he gets the ball there at the end, we just got to find a way. Hey, we're going up against a guy who has done this better than anybody else in the history of the game in the fourth quarter like that. And he just has such a good feel. Like when I watched the tape today, you just tell he just got a feel. He's got elite ability and elite instincts and feel. So I just give him credit.
All right, we'll do two more. Mike Wells.
Frank, this is the first time this season when talking about the double-digit leads that you specifically pointed out that they were against playoff caliber type teams. When you look at how the way you guys have lost those games have been different each time. What's it take for a team, for you guys to overcome that against teams that are likely end up in the playoffs, to be able to close out opponents?
Yeah, we all got to get just a little bit better. We got to coach it a little bit better. We got to play a little bit. I got to make one more great call. I got to make a great call. There's a lot of good calls, but I got to make a great call, the right call, the perfect call in the perfect situation to put our guys in the best scenario to make that play. And then, from a player standpoint, it comes down to, hey, we just that one play, somebody make that miraculous catch, that big stop on defense, a great play on special teams. We as a team, coaches and players, have to find a way to dial up the right call or the right play in those moments. That's what you see when you watch the teams that are doing it. That's what they're seeing, and they're getting that from coaches and players at the level that they need to win the game. So I'm encouraged that we're building those leads against great teams. I know we have the players and coaches to get it done. We just have to prove it in a more consistent fashion.
All right, last one, Joel Erickson.
Frank, you mentioned earlier that because of some of the stuff you guys see from teams gearing up to stop Jonathan, that's one of the reasons you like the RPO. Can you explain why a little bit more?
Yeah, teams just get very creative about heavy box, and a lot of it are run blitzes. They get very creative in their disguise. The Bucs were very creative in their disguise. Like, for instance, even in that last quarter, when we're ripping runs up there in the last quarter, and it looks like, well, why haven't they been doing this the whole second half? Because we were one score down. They were expecting us to throw it. They were looking like it was a heavy box, and they're running and they're bailing out. I mean, two or three of those gash runs that Jonathan had in that last quarter were they're up there heavy to start, and at the snap of the ball, they're softening and bailing out, and we ripped a couple runs up in there. And then they played a couple heavy boxes, and we ripped one up in there against a heavy box. That was a great run and great blocking by the O-line. But that's what they're going to do, Joel. They're going to disguise. They're going to go to the extreme in disguising. They're going to run more run blitzes, and then they're going to find more ways to create that heavy box, through those ways. And so you have to be able to adjust post snap. And RPOs is one way. It's not the way, it's one way. So, that's just going to be part of who we are for the time being. Hey, maybe somewhere down the road, you philosophically, if you get a fullback or you do something like that and become a different team, but that's just not who we have been as an offense. We've been a one-back offense that builds this way, creating run, play, action, RPOs that complement each other, and feel like we could still be a power. We can still get power football. We can still get elements of power football. We have the players to do that. We have a system that can do that. And now that Jonathan is really kind of coming into his own in ways that's catching the whole league, taking the whole league by storm, we'll continue to find ways, that we can just call runs that don't have to worry about those extra elements. But for right now, the RPO thing is a very good tool, and we're being very successful with it.
Does that help with the disguise because there's a conflict defender, and so some of the other stuff that doesn't matter, Carson can just read that defender and tells? It's exactly right. You have a conflict defender that when you create a conflict defender, what that does is that now puts the offensive line at a better angle and better leverage on the man that they're supposed to block, because now you've given that conflict defender to the quarterback so that the O lineman has an easier job. It's a good scheme. You can't run it all the time. That's why we don't run too many of them. Well, if we run 10 a game, that's a good number. 5 to 10 a game is a good number. Against a team like this, you might have to run a little bit more. If it's not the number one run defense, maybe you don't run as many RPOs. But when you're going up against the number one run defense, you got to find creative ways to match what they're doing.